Hey everyone, so today is day 4 of Mageblood from scratch. I'm sorry there wasn't a video yesterday. I took a break. I went out and shot for a new GPU. Since my current GPU is crashing super often and makes streaming kind of annoying. But today was day 4 instead. Just took one day off and we have some good news and some bad news. So today, all we really did for most of today was just farm essences. I was able to use my newfound speed to farm substantially more efficiently. We were able to hold around 4.5 div an hour just by farming essences in mausoleums. Unfortunately, the price of the elevated essence compass has gone up a little bit from about 70 chaos each to around 140 chaos each. So that 4.5 div an hour is probably closer to 4 div an hour, but that's still pretty decent. With that, I made about 20 div or so today. It was a pretty profitable day, and I was looking to eventually go into a new strategy. So I ended up paying for the rest of my void stones, so I now have all 4. And I ended up doing most of the favorited mobs. The only ones I'm missing is Cortex and Feared. And I don't really need these 2 slots, so I'm just going to ignore them for now and I'll get them later. In terms of the strategy I was using today, we were trying to do Harbingers with Harvest and with Essences on City Square. And we were also using the Nico tech, where we have Packed with Energy for all res, damage, and movement speed, and then mining byproducts, which gives us a 10% chance to get Azurite. And when this procs, it's about 20 to 30 chaos, which is really nice. In terms of the strategy, it was simply just city squares that are rolled for around 60-70% quant with Harbinger from the map device and elevated essence and mysterious Harbingers sextants. Now here's where the bad news starts. Unfortunately, melee just fucking sucks. I have to say it. So with my current builds, doing these tier 16 maps with Harbingers were extremely painful. I only ended up doing a few before just realizing how awful melee actually felt when I wasn't just doing tier 1 maps, and how I all of a sudden needed defenses. To the point where, in my opinion, I don't really want to sit here and try to fix this, because the problem is we would need so much more money. I know I'm running Abysses and Abysses is making me super squishy. I know I have kind of low life, but the problem is I don't really have many places to fit life. I can get a slightly better roll on here, and I can get slightly better rolls on my rings and my amulets, and I can replace Abysses, but that's still only going to put me at about maybe 3,500 life. I could also maybe look for a little bit of a better roll here, but overall, like if I look for more life, I can go to 3.5, 3.6k total health. I could also look to potentially swap some of my tree, but the problem is with everything I have, I'm only doing about 6 million damage, which doesn't really feel too good in these maps. I did feel like I wanted more damage, and if I want to get more defenses, I'd have to sacrifice damage to pick up more defenses. I can gain a few more levels and pick up Prismatic Skin, for example, which would help quite a bit. But overall, I just don't really see melee being in good enough of a spot to make continuing a Cyclone worth it. It was fun, and it was a really nice nostalgia trip for me to play with Savior again, but I unfortunately feel like the damage that melee does right now is too low to make it work, because you need too many defenses on top of it. Gone are the days where you could just play with life rolls everywhere and with resistances. That is simply just not enough defensive layers to make melee work. That's how I played this build last time when I did this challenge back in Delirium. I had absolutely no problems. I was going through tier 16 maps like it was nothing. I was farming Delirium like it was nothing. I had an amazing time with it. But unfortunately, it very much seems like you cannot play the game like that anymore. So because of that, because this doesn't do enough damage, and I know you could say, oh, Allie, but why don't you just go staff Shockwave? Stack Shockwave does a little bit better. Well, the damage of that still wouldn't be decent enough for my liking, nor would we really be able to fit enough speed in it, nor would it still really be that tanky. So because of all these things, I think I want to reroll. I still want to stick to my original goal of picking something that's not too meta, but at the same time not too hipster. I feel like, unfortunately, Savior Paradoxica Cyclone was a little bit on the lower end towards hipster, to the point where it just really doesn't feel good with a lot of currency. I know melee does take a lot of currency to even feel good, but unfortunately this just scales so slowly with the need for defenses being way too high that I think it's just better for me to swap to something. So I put it up to a vote to my chat, and I believe it was 70-30 on yes, we should reroll. And I think the build I want to reroll into is Auto Bomber. Now, Auto Bomber is also a squishy build, but the thing about Auto Bomber is it does really good damage, and the most important thing is it's ranged. I play a lot of builds in PoE. I put a lot of money into builds in PoE, and the one thing I need to say is true melee builds just don't feel good. Bone Shatter might feel okay, but like other true melee builds that need a lot of defenses just really don't feel that good. Melee-like builds such as Lightning Strike or Smite feel a lot better, and actually played Armor Stacker all of last season. But the ability to have a ability that scales really well, and the ability to not have to be in melee range, as melee as his characters, I basically have to be on top of monsters, makes those builds substantially tankier. And unfortunately for me, I'm just not really having fun, and I don't really want to force myself to keep playing Cyclone if these tier 16 maps just feel this bad. So as I mentioned, we're going to go Herald of Thunder Auto Bomber. My plan is to reroll tonight off stream. I'm just going to quickly level, and I think I want to get the character to about level 72, 73, and we'll basically start with a fresh character. I'm going to sell all the gear off of this character and we'll put it into that, and this should be more than enough to start with Auto Bomber. It's a pretty cheap build to get going, and it does pretty well on a small budget, and it does also scale really nicely, and all the gear for it is pretty cheap. I hope people can understand that I don't want to force myself to play something too shitty. I know I did say I wanted to stick with Cyclone as much as I could, but unfortunately it's just getting to the point where it's too much for me, and I just really can't do it anymore. I need to play something that's at least a little bit better than melee. I am not a melee player. I'm very much a spellcaster, and this just is not the playstyle for me, nor is the build fixing I really want to do. I mostly want to focus on the money making aspect of this, but at the same time I want to play a more mediocre build to show how you can make money on everything. It's just melee is not for me, and I don't really want to try and fix this. I'd much rather play some sort of spellcaster and have fun with that, while still showing people how you can get a Mageblood from nothing as well. I hope everyone understands, and tomorrow we'll be back with some auto bombing, which I think will be really fun. That's it for this video. I'm going to go level tonight really quickly. I don't want it to impede the series. I don't want it to take too long, so I just want to quickly rush it, get done with it, and be able to continue the series tomorrow as if nothing happened. I appreciate you guys being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.